So here's the thing. It's finally here. After 5 years, Sonic Forces is no longer the last Sonic game. Thank fucking God. Still, that's the longest gap of time between two games in the entire franchise's history. And the lead up to the game was... well, certainly something. The initial trailer was an absolute disaster. Then, as more trailers came out, they got better and better. Then the cyberspace levels got a trailer, and well, here we are. All eyes are on the game now, and I've been playing it for the past few days, so let's answer the question everyone wants to know. Is the game a 10 out of 10 masterpiece that completely redeems the series? No. Is it an absolutely disastrous 06 level dumpster fire? No. This game is exactly what I was saying it was going to be leading up to release. A slightly above average, fun 7 to 7.5 out of 10. If you're satisfied with the review there and want as fresh a take as possible with the game, then we're done here. But if you want to hear a bit more, well, stick around. But because the game literally came out this week at time of writing, I will be avoiding spoilers and mainly focusing on the first island. So, let's start off with how the game starts out. One dark night, Eggman is off doing Eggman things when suddenly he gets sucked right into what the game calls cyberspace. The next day, Sonic, Tails, and Amy are off tracking him down in a tornado, which, since this is the opening of a Sonic game, immediately gets shot down, sending everyone into cyberspace. Oh no. Oh no! Okay, so my PC doesn't have the best specs out there. In fact, it has literally the minimum requirements to run this game at a reasonable frame rate. But in order to do that, I had to turn the graphics down to this. Yay, fun. And just like with Forces, recording this thing with OBS just fucking tanks the frame rate. So we're using trailer footage, baby. Anyway, Sonic manages to break out of cyberspace and is told, hey, go kill all these giant robots to save your friends. And that's basically the plot of the game. From here out, the 5 islands in the game start a sort of cycle. First, you see one of your friends trapped in these red cage things, then you go off to find some memory tokens, which you can get either by completing some quick platformer challenges or finding some hidden treasure chest areas. Then after giving them the tokens, you do a cyberspace level or 2 to get keys, which can also be found in the overworld, to get a Chaos Emerald. Repeat the last 2 steps a few times, and finally you get the last Chaos Emerald from the boss, go super, fight the boss, and move on. The vast majority of this game, with maybe the exception of the first island, takes place in the open world. And holy shit is it open. These maps are fucking big, to the point that it's almost daunting. But, I mean, you are Sonic after all, so even the biggest maps don't take too long to traverse, and it's generally fun to do so. These little platform challenges are kind of an issue. See, for the most part, they're just kind of strewn about, without really that much care being put into where they are. Now, when you're first going through a level, I can see this being helpful getting through them quickly, and there were a few instances where I kind of felt like they were chaining together in a way, but for the most part, they're just kind of there and would occasionally, not always, but occasionally get in the way. Tokens aren't the only thing you can find in the open world. There's also 2 types of seeds, these little Korok-looking things called Kocos, which I really wish were just straight up chows, and skill points, or effectively just experience points. I'm gonna be upfront. All of this may sound a bit daunting at first, but I assure you once you're actually in the game, you get the gist of it rather easily. Seeds up your attack and defense, Kocos up your top speed and max ring capacity, and experience points let you get new attacks. And in all honesty, you might as well ignore the Kocos. Your base ring capacity of 400 is generally more than enough, and your base top speeds are fine. If you do want to get them, then I'd say get the ring upgrade. It's just that tiny bit more useful. I honestly was not expecting this game to be as much of an RPG as it was. Like I said, you can upgrade Sonic's attack and defense. Not that that's a bad thing, it gives you something to do when you're running around, and it gives you a reason to fight enemies. Speaking of fighting, the combat in this game is actually pretty alright. Now at first it may seem a bit dull, but you eventually get a variety of moves, most of which you should or sometimes need to use, which help keep the fighting from just mashing the attack button. You actually have to pull off combos and shit. There's even a parry move, which by the way you're gonna have to use on bosses. So yeah, the gameplay in the open world is fun. Sonic controls pretty well. There's enough to do in the world, from collecting items to fighting bad guys and mini-bosses to solving these simple challenges to fill out the map. Yep, the gameplay is pretty solid. For most of this game. The cyberspace levels, let's get into them. Now, I'm gonna be honest here. When I first sat down to start writing the script at the end of the first island or so, I was prepared to rip into these levels. But as I went through the game more and played through more of these levels, I softened up to them a bit. I think in my part it was just fatigue. We've been seeing these thin hallway level designs for over a decade now, and it was starting to get stale. It was just, they had this fun new idea for a world, but they're also keeping one foot in the past. Quite literally, actually, as a good handful of these levels are shamelessly stolen directly from past games. See, for those who weren't following the game pre-launch, there was a controversy about Sega straight up reusing old levels in this game via the cyberspace levels, specifically from Sonic Unleashed and Generations. Now, in order to accurately talk about this, I went out of my way to replay all of the modern Sonic stages from Sonic Generations the day before this game came out just to compare. I'd say, based on what I played, about 4 or 5 of the 30 cyberspace levels are directly ripped from past games. As in, you're literally just playing the same level again. Maybe a bit shorter. The first time I noticed this was the first chemical plant stage, and I was just fucking slack-jawed at how blatant it was. Now yes, if you're keeping count, that does mean that roughly 26 of the levels are actually new levels. And yeah, most of them are fun. I did enjoy myself throughout the majority of the cyberspace levels I played, but that's still lazy as fuck and should not be excused. It's a real shame. I did like these levels for the most part, and I liked the idea of the old boost level style being used as special stages, but that's not even what's happening here, because these aren't special stages, they're required to get through the game. Now apparently it took me about 13 hours to beat this game. I did some math and estimated that about 8 or 9% of the game was cyberspace levels. So, me being concerned about Sega backtracking on their new gameplay style was a bit poorly founded. But the laziness is still an issue. Not in terms of just level design, but also in terms of level aesthetics. Say it with me, Sonic fans. We are sick and tired of seeing Green Hill Zone and Chemical Plant Zone. Green Hill Zone especially. How many fucking games has this level been in by now? Now, Sky Sanctuary and the generic city levels, okay, one of those we haven't seen in a while, and the other is just pretty generic and fits well for Sonic. But I'd still rather have these levels actually reflect the cyberspace name, not just be random floating objects. Like, imagine running through levels that looked like Tron or that one scene from Hackers. That would have looked awesome. But no, we're still stuck on Green Hill Zone. While I'm airing some grievances, probably my biggest issue with the game is with Sonic's momentum. They did not fix this shit from Forces. If you let go of the control stick at all, Sonic stops on a dime. Now, in all fairness, it's not the worst. You do keep some momentum while in the air, not a lot, but some, which is still a step up from Forces where you stopped instantly. And I get wanting a way for Sonic to stop quickly in this game. There are a few times where it saved me from running right off a cliff or into some other hazard. But then we get to how momentum works with the boost. If you let go of the boost button, Sonic basically stops. He immediately reverts to his much lower standard run speed. Now yes, I don't think that Sonic should be able to fully keep up his boost speed while running normally. It should eventually slow down, but it should be gradual, not immediate. This leads to the boost effectively just being a run button, and I remember us calling that bullshit when Sonic Lost World did it. I like this game, but when it has real issues like this, I'm gonna call it out, especially when previous Sonic games did it right. If Sonic's momentum in the open world worked in the same way it did in Generations, it'd be way better. The only time I was actually able to feel like I was building up speed was in the rare instances that I'd spin dash down a big hill. It's satisfying to see you just slowly speed up and then race off. Alright, the spin dash is finally back. Though not fully, as you can only access it by using the drop dash, which admittedly I was surprised to see in this game. Honestly, most of Sonic's moves that we've been missing are back. Not just the spin dash, but we finally have the light speed dash again as well. It's a bit awkward at first having it mapped to R3, but I got used to it.
But you know what my biggest problem with Sonic Frontiers is? It doesn't have Fang the Sniper in it. What the hell, do you want me to actually have to do that Fang rant? Well, even though the best Sonic character isn't in the game, I can at least be happy knowing I have him here! That's right, idiots, I got my own personal Fang the Sniper right here, courtesy of my good friend and certified Blaze the Cat lover, Whiteon. Now, as cool as this is, and as cool as he is British, so one day I am going to have to kill him. But for now, I can definitely appreciate this man has some skill. I asked him and he said I could chat him out, but he doesn't have a Twitter or DeviantArt or anything like that, so I'll put the link to his Funny Junk profile in the description. Go to his most recent post and comment, "You're a cool dude with attitude," I guess. I don't fucking know. But yeah, thanks man.
To give as brief and spoiler-free of an explanation of the story as I can, it's alright. I think it does a good job of balancing the serious with goofy. I like the fact that they actually gave us some new lore, willing to bet that there's going to be a game theory on this by the time this video's out, and I like how things wrap up. Except for a couple of things at the very, very end, but that's a really big spoiler, so I'll keep quiet on it. But speaking of spoilers, I'm going to be going into some minor spoilers to talk about the characters and a couple of other things. Nothing that hasn't been revealed via trailers already, but if you want to skip, here's the time code. Alright, let's get into this. I really like the way these guys are written. Wait, what? Ian Flynn did a good job writing Sonic characters? Stop the presses. Okay, jokes aside, I really do respect Sonic Team for reaching out to probably the most respected writer of Sonic material out there. For those who don't know, Ian Flynn is a writer for the IDW Sonic comics, and previously was a writer for the Archie Sonic comics, and he's commonly seen as one of the better writers on both comics. He's apparently been a longtime fan of the series, so I can only imagine him being given a chance to write the next big upcoming Sonic game was probably a dream come true. He put his A game into this and made these characters the strongest they've been since, in my opinion, Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic is his usual self, a rebellious, cocky smartass who does care about his friends. Amy finally feels like there's actually more to her than just loving Sonic, can't believe it took us this long to get here. Knuckles is finally no longer an idiot and instead a strong, respectable, but quick-tempered rival to Sonic again. Tails is effectively redeemed after the events of Sonic Forces. Hell, they even address how horribly he was written in Forces, which takes guts, not gonna lie. And then there's Eggman. Wow. He is really well done here. For the first time since, again, Sonic Adventure 2, Eggman feels like an actual character, not just a goofy bad guy we gotta beat. Mike Pollock really shows off why he's the definitive Eggman voice in this game. Hell, all the voice actors do a pretty fine job, all things considered. And then there's Sage, the new character introduced in this game. Unlike most new characters to the series since Sonic and the Black Knight, threw you a curveball there, they actually remember to give her a personality, and a very interesting one at that, as well as a very fitting character arc that ties in well with the themes of the story. There's something else about her that makes her very different from basically every new Sonic character since 2006, but that is quite literally as spoilery as I can possibly get for this game, so once again, I ain't telling ya. Play the game yourself if you want to know it, it's worth it. Maybe in a year I'll do a proper 40 to 50 minute long Let's Talk About for Sonic Frontiers, but now's not that time. And well, that's all the characters. Well, except for one. I have to respect the absolute cojones on the guy who confidently suggested, hey, let's bring back Big the Cat along with his fishing minigame. And also make him sound like bootleg Kermit the Frog.
Hey Sonic, you come here to fish too?
You know, despite my mini rant about Big in the Sonic character theme video, I don't think it's impossible for him to be written well in a game, so long as they actually use him how he was initially meant to be used. As a joke. Big is effectively the punchline to a running gag, that being, how the fuck did he get here? That's what he was in Sonic Adventure 1, and especially in Sonic Adventure 2, and that's basically, in my opinion, the best way to write him. So his inclusion isn't too annoying.
Big, what are you doing here? How did you get here? What even is here?
I don't know. I was looking for fishing spots and wound up here. So now I'm fishing.
Of course you are.
I actually really like the fishing minigame. It reminds me of the fishing in Yakuza games, actually, and it can be pretty helpful in getting memory tokens and keys if you're struggling on finding those. I'll be damned, they actually managed to find a way to work Big into a Sonic game again and make it not only fitting, but a welcome inclusion. Finally, the music. We all know the music's good. You don't even have to play the game to know that because Sonics have a famous reputation of always having great music, and this game is no exception. For a while, I wasn't really feeling it. Yeah, it sounded nice, don't get me wrong, but the slow piano and simple ambient music just didn't feel right for a Sonic game. It was very Breath of the Wild, as is most of this game to be honest. The orchestral music during the mini-bosses was a step up, and I did like the music in the cyberspace levels, but those were rarities. I was about to call the soundtrack underwhelming but harmless, until I got to the first boss. I'm just gonna play you 10 uninterrupted seconds of the music that plays during the first boss. soundtrack kicks ass. Minor spoilers here, but each boss is a supersonic fight with their own rocking fight song, supplied by the band Sleeping with Sirens. So basically, every boss in this game is the kick-ass giant monster supersonic fight with rock music you'd normally get at the end of a Sonic game. And they're all hype as fuck, especially when you counterattack after a parry and shit, I'm getting carried away. The only boss I really had an issue with was the final boss, which apparently I didn't even actually play, because you can only play it on hard mode and I beat the game on normal. Anyways, I digress. Back to music. There's also a very nice song that plays over the credits of the game that I think acts as a lovely cap-off for the story. To go on a tangent for a moment, this game has a certain energy around it. Now yes, it does give off intense, over-the-top anime energy in both the gameplay and the story and the cutscenes, which, holy shit, I love that. But I mean in a different way. See, there's a certain Sonic game out there that this one really reminds me of. I genuinely believe that Frontiers took design inspiration from specifically Sonic Adventure 1. Not only is the main cast basically exactly the same, with Sage taking over in Gamma's place, not only does the story fit in with the Adventure era's tone, but the basic design and flow of the game just reminds me a lot of Adventure 1. Throughout the game, you'll occasionally be tossed into a mini-game you have to complete, and that shit just sent me right back to Adventure 1, where you'd have to randomly play a game of whack-a-mole or go down a go-kart track or something. Yeah, it wasn't all that cohesive, but it was fun. Fuck it. I do wish these minigames were optional though, especially by the third island. But I did still enjoy doing them, for the most part. Now don't get me wrong, I do have my issues with the game. The story and characters aren't perfect, I do have issues with them, but they are pretty small. The gameplay has a couple of issues, the animation is very varied. Sometimes it looks really, really good, and sometimes it looks like it's something straight out of an SFM video. Or actually, sometimes even worse than SFM. And personally, while I'm fine with the art style, I would have loved to see more Sonic-style level concepts. Those are most of the issues that drag the game down in my opinion, but apart from those, it's a very solid, fun, memorable experience. So, is the series saved? Let's not get ahead of ourselves here, pal. Sonic Team has blown too many golden opportunities for me to say anything like that. But I will say this. The game is good. Not great, but good. That being said, looking to the future, what would I want to see out of Sonic Team? Adventure remakes. Okay, jokes aside. What would I want to see out of a new Sonic game? Well, if we're going to stick to this gameplay style, 1. Fix the momentum issues I had. 2. Polish off the smaller issues I had with the game. And 3. Give us some more Sonic-y feeling open worlds. What I mean by that is stuff like cities or grand industrial Eggman factories. You know, that kind of stuff. Do that? And oh boy, Heroes might finally have competition for my favorite Sonic game. All in all, the game's fine. But I think that the best thing about it is just how happy everyone seems to be that the game's fine. Sonic hasn't had a game that everyone has been able to agree is good since 2011. Now yes, there are definitely people out there who I've seen have issues with the game, but the discussion seems to be mostly civil and people saying whether or not the game is a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10. Which hell, I'll definitely take over people vehemently arguing about whether or not a game is a 3 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. I guess what I'm saying is, it's just nice to have some positivity in the fandom again. As cynical as I am with the series, even I have to admit that for the first time in a while, everything seems to be going the little blue bastard's way. Everyone's excited for the third movie, Prime looks like it's gonna be a neat little show, the comics are as usual fucking great. Seriously, if you like Sonic, read those, and even the games are starting to look up. Sonic Team, as much as I and a lot of the fandom really doesn't like you sometimes, we're still rooting for you. Here's to hoping that you deliver us an incredible sequel to an acceptable game. I'm Sir Strongman, and that was the thing. Hey everyone, just as a quick little update by the way at the end of the video, as you may have noticed, this video is shorter than a usual video. That's because in real life I'm starting to get to the end of my college semester. That and the holidays and all that. Basically what I'm saying is that videos are going to start being a little bit shorter. I'm not going to stop making them, I'm still going to try and at least get one out a month. But yeah, don't expect 40-minute videos every month. Alright? Sorry to disappoint. By January I'll be back on track with the normal style of video making. Alright, that's all. See you guys in December.